I wanted to thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to answer some questions with us here at Black Dollar X.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I want to jump right into it. The first thing I want to ask you is what it was like growing up for you, and what do you think led you to become the activist, poet, and rapper that you are today?
I mean, I grew up around a lot of culture. You know, I had a family just full of spirit, full of energy, West Indian culture. You know, coming from Trinidad, that's where I'm from a small village in Trinidad called Mayaro. And so, you know, just growing up around simplicity, you know, for us, it was just appreciating little things. And I think for me, that really materialized into who I am today, just keeping me humble, keeping me grounded, and just appreciating life, you know, the ability to be, you know what I'm saying? So I grew up, you know, thankfully to have my father, who was very disciplined at a young age, you know, very wise man. You know, my parents split when I was very young, but those principles and merits that I grew up around was something that's always been embedded in my path.
Beautiful. So what motivates you, and what do you want the legacy that you leave behind to be?
What motivates me is really just being able to see others succeed as a result of my growth. You know, being able to help others, being able to use my voice and my talents to inspire the world. You know, I think that we all put here with a purpose, and me using my purpose to make this world better, even in the most simple ways, is, I think for me, is the greatest motivation. And just knowing for every notch you achieve, it's always another notch to go. You know, so I think that between the giving back process and just knowing your infinite potential and what comes with that, the responsibility that comes with that, that our ancestors didn't sacrifice for us to be mediocre, for us to just settle because of whatever umbrellas or glass ceilings society puts upon us as a people. I think, you know, we put here to break through, so that's what motivates me.
Okay, so you've been working with and helping people for a long time, since you were younger. I heard about the scholarship that you were awarded from Oprah Winfrey for being recognized as Youth of the Year with the Boys and Girls Club of America. Did you get to meet Oprah or ask her any questions, or did she just kind of send you the check?
Nah. I didn't get to meet Oprah, you know what I'm saying? But it was a blessing, you know. I mean, I think at that young age, I was 15 when that happened. And you know, I knew it was special. It was a blessing that I appreciated, but I didn't really, because I was only living in America for about 3 years, for about 3 or 4 years around the time that happened. So I was a young child from Trinidad, and so, you know, I got the scholarship from Oprah. You know, I didn't really even digest how big Oprah really was, you know, and I got to shout out the Boys and Girls Clubs, because without them, that wouldn't have came to fruition. And, you know, I was definitely a devout participant, you know, in all our inner cities. We have a lot of Boys and Girls Clubs scattered, and they give programs to the youth. They give us an outlet to be able to go and find a safe space, a healthy space to just get away from the ills of the community, to do something constructive. And as a result of being Youth of the Year for Boys and Girls Clubs was how I ended up getting the Oprah Winfrey Scholarship. So, and it was one for each state. So I was the Youth of the Year for the state of Maryland at that time. So she gave it out to 50 young people all over the country, $25,000 for each youth, and that was huge. You know what I mean? I mean, who knows where I would have been if that didn't happen? You know, not saying I would have been in jail or something negative, but we just don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you ended up, after receiving the scholarship, you ended up attending Howard University, correct?
Thank God.
How was that experience for you?
I mean, it was a blessing. You know. Growing up, I was homeschooled, you know what I mean? My father was very militant-minded in his approach. You know, he was like, I'm not going to let the world brainwash my son. I got a certain vision for him. You know, I got a certain path that I would like him to walk on, that, you know, he saw a lot of young people falling victim to the ills and influences that were out there, because when you're 6, 7 years old, and you're away from your parents, from your family for so long, the world is shaping you. You know what I'm saying? The time that you have home, you're watching TV, this, that, and the third. So, you know, by the time I got to Howard, I already knew who I was. You know, a lot of people get to college and they find themselves. Thankfully, I already knew who I was. So, for me, it was a time to handle business. So I spent a lot of time at Howard performing. I learned a lot. You know, I was blessed to be around some rich people. When I say rich, I mean just in terms of mental knowledge and culture. Black people from all across the diaspora. It was just a beautiful experience, you know what I'm saying? Some of my professors who just imparted so much knowledge that made me appreciate my culture and heritage even more, you know. Yeah.
Do you think being an HBCU alumni had a major effect on the message that you delivered to the people, or do you feel like your life experience had more of that impact?
Not to take anything away from my HBCU experience, but I think it was more so my life experience and what I was exposed to. I think all my experiences contribute to my content, including my HBCU experience. But before I got to Howard, I was already focused as a writer. I was already tackling certain issues and exercising certain muscles just based on the home that I was blessed to grow up in, and the, you know, and the environment that I grew up around. You know, the negatives and the positives, they both influenced my creative process.
And you also spent some time at Duke Ellington School of the Arts, correct?
Yeah.
How was it working with the group of individuals?
It was ironic, you know, because when I graduated, I didn't plan to teach. I went to school for public relations, and so it was the job was offered to me upon coming out of Howard. And of course, as a young college student graduating, you know, you're hungry, you know, you're like, all right, you offer me this job, I'm gonna take it. And it was something that I loved doing, you know. And the way I got it was because my background was in the performing arts. So, you know, a lot of people who knew me for my poetry, knew me for my art, they connected with me based off of that. So the woman who invited me to come and take on that position, you know, she heard me perform. She was also a professor at Howard University. And so when I got there, you know, I'm young and I'm working with 9th through 12th graders, and it was really a learning process for me. I think just stepping in the classroom, I was able to connect with them because I wasn't that much older, but at the same time, for me, it did present certain challenges. It wasn't always a perfect route, but I think, you know, this was like 2007 to 2008, and it really enriched my process as a facilitator, as an educator, as a teacher, and yeah, it was dope. I mean, it was so many talented students at Duke Ellington, you know what I mean? So many young people just ahead of their time, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, great school.
Okay, how did you get connected with A3C and become a special guest speaker for them?
I connected with A3C as a result of the Action Summit that they're doing, highlighting people who utilize the creative arts to impact social change in their respective communities. So when I saw that opportunity online, you know, I sent in a proposal about the work that I'm doing with young men and young women incarcerated at Rikers and how I'm using the arts to really impact lives on the inside. And so they reviewed it, they reached out to me and said, you know, you made it to our top 17 selections, we'd like to do a phone interview with you. So we did that phone interview, and then they called back and said, you know, we selected you amongst our top 5 finalists, we'd like to fly you out to Atlanta and have you come out and make your presentation. Then they reached back out again and said, you know, we'd like you to also do a performance at the after event, which was at the art gallery space last night. And so that's how it happened, and it's been a profound experience. My first 2 days here in Atlanta was mainly about, you know, just how do you make your elevator pitch more concise. It was a training for young entrepreneurs and young creatives who have their own innovative ideas, but you might not really be able to verbally encapsulate it in a small amount of time in terms of just what it's about, why are you doing it, what's motivating you, and what are you asking for, what type of support do you need. So it was very informative and just a wealth of information that I plan to take forth with me, and also the network of it was really good, you know, the relationships.
Okay, what's the broader message that you're hoping your audience got from you listening to you speak at A3C?
The great need for support for my young people, the great need for support on behalf of our young people, a population that, especially, you know, where I work at Rikers, you know, it's a population that's oftentimes overlooked when we talk about concerns as it relates to youth. A lot of people, you know, and we have to go to the schools. I'm a big fan of prevention before they even get to Rikers. A lot of times people focus on those on the outside and forget about those who are going through it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, people will say things and they go out rally, you know, shut down the jail, shut down Rikers, and I'm pro shut down Rikers, but we still got children on Rikers, right? And, you know, if your child was on Rikers, you would be concerned about how they living, how they being treated, what's affecting their mental health, XYZ, you know? So I think that we need to really connect with our young people before they get out, because if not, it increases the likelihood of them recidivating back into the system. And when they come back, they're not looking at the juvenile charge, they're looking at an adult sentence, and that becomes a cycle. So we want to break that cycle starting from the inside, and that's the message that I hope people walked away with, is that, you know, even if you can't fund my idea, maybe you can go back to your communities and do something for the youth who are overlooked and forgotten, and people, quote unquote, stereotype them as broken, but really they're not. You know what I'm saying? So that's the message that I really hope resonated and that people walked away with.
Okay, you do a lot of work on Rikers Island with the brothers there and bring them lots of messages of positivity. How did the process go getting connected with those brothers?
The process, what do you mean as far as getting connected with them? Like how did I start doing this work?
Yes.
I started doing this work through a brother, my brother Troy X, you know, who came home and from doing 11 years incarcerated. And when he saw what I was doing with the performing arts and the impact it was having on the outside, he said we need the same impact on the inside. And he was already going to jail speaking, so we created, you know, a union between us that just was so powerful when we went to facilities and he spoke and I did the spoken word and was also able to connect, you know, a message with them. It just was something that I think was unseen within the facilities, and the young people began to just reach out to us and open up. And a lot of the youth who, you know, a lot of the counselors and correctional officers couldn't reach, we were able to connect with them. And that's where it started with me, and, you know, them and just, you know, connecting them with who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, once you see yourself as a god, as a young black man, you no longer settle for being a nigga. You know what I'm saying? You no longer, you know, accept what society says this is the way it is. You create your reality. And I think once we get young people in the mindset of shaping what's real and what's really out there in terms of what they can achieve, and beyond just going to school and getting a degree, but what's your purpose, connect them with that, that's when it starts to tick. You know what I'm saying? A lot of young people, a job sounds corny, you know what I mean? So people come with the same rhetoric, like get a job, go to school, but nobody is really asking them to really open up and find what's your passion, what are you put here to do, and how can we help elevate that, right?
What would you say are your biggest influences?
My biggest influence is my elders. You know, a lot of the elders that I grew up around and that just imparted wisdom upon me, and, you know, me doing a lot of listening, you know, me asking for certain bits of advice, asking questions, and just my own life chapters, you know, my struggles, my successes, you know, my family, the places I've lived. You know, I spent time in Trinidad. I spent time living in Annapolis, Maryland. I spent, you know, time in New York City. You know, spent time going to college in D.C. I've been able to travel as a result of being an artist and just, you know, hear other artists. So my inspirations come from a lot of places. You know, being able to study the greats. You know, the Malcolm X's, reading Marcus Garvey, Minister Farrakhan. You know, just a lot of different schools of thought that I think really impacted me starting at home, and I'm blessed and thankful to be able to say that, you know, those things were part of what makes me who I am and who I'm striving to even become better at being.
What would you count as your greatest achievement thus far?
My greatest achievement thus far, you know, I really don't bask in those things. You know, I really keep my eye on the prize as far as what's in front of me. You know, I think that we got to treat life as a springboard and not as a sofa. You know, so once you get caught up in, like, you know, I've achieved this and this was the greatest, I think my greatest is yet to come. You know what I'm saying? Looking back at it, I could definitely touch on certain things that I've accomplished in the art world, and awards, and people I've helped, and, you know, just seeing how they were able to take that and succeed. Certain young people who I know, you know, we started working on the inside, and now they're home and we're giving them jobs, and, you know, they no longer have to go back to the life of crime and think about the streets, and, you know, knowing that they're beyond just a job, that they have a family they can connect with. I think those things are some of the most fulfilling for me. You know, my supporters out there, just, you know, hearing young people saying, you know, I'm writing now, I'm creating now, something as simple as that might sound, you know, but just, you know, knowing that somebody's out there resorting to something creative as opposed to something destructive as a result of seeing a video of you online or something on TV or catching you on stage somewhere. Those are things that really inspire me. But as far as my greatest achievement, you know, I really just don't like to dwell on that. You know what I mean? It's just about doing the work, man.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so what artist are you listening to right now?
Man, I've been digging up some old stuff. Like today I was playing Lauryn Hill, her second album, the double CD. You know, I've been digging up some old Lupe again. You know,
Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah. I think he's definitely one of the underrateds. You know, when Jay dropped that 444, I was in that zone for a little minute. You know, I just started listening to this old school blues artist, Bobby Blue Bland.
Okay.
You know, he's dope. I like that funky vibe that he's bringing to the music, that he brought to the music. You know, I listen to a lot of like reggae. I'm a big Sizzler fan. You know, I'm a big Damian Marley fan. His new album is fire. You know, I'm waiting on the next Nas joint. I'm gonna go see Nas perform tomorrow while I'm out here in Atlanta. But you know, I'm listening to a lot. You know what I mean? David Banner's new project was ill. I should definitely go out there and support that. You know, so yeah.
All right, now where can we find you and when can we hear about your next project?
You can find me online. You know, nowadays a lot of people connecting through the internet, so my website is allmessiah.com. My social media, Instagram, Twitter is the same. All Messiah, ALLMESSIAH.
And when can we hear about your next project?
You can hear about my next project rather soon. I haven't really made a public announcement yet, but I think, you know, I don't mind sharing it with you guys now. I've been sharing it with people in my circle, of course, but I just completed my first poetry book that I plan to launch, and you could definitely look for that. We're just, you know, wrapping up the graphics and the artwork for it at this very moment, but we're looking at launching that before the new year. So I definitely look out for the book.
Okay, Messiah, I just want to take another moment to thank you for spending some time with us and answering some questions. It's been a complete privilege to hear you speak and get to know you in this time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Salute.